Alright, so this will be a brief summary of my, let's say, development process for games such as this one here. Let's get the game audio off so you can hear me. Alright, so when making an X and Y game, there are several factors to consider. You want to begin with basically you want to pick two games you like that are vaguely compatible in terms of balance. You don't want to be putting Brad and Pointless. Most theoretically possible, in terms of balance, it is an absolute nightmare. I have attempted similar things in the past, and it is often not worth the effort it takes. Usually, you begin by setting up your walking sprites for the chosen character. This is most easily done by saying that, say there's a file called Alex Jump. Say you're doing Pointless. You would take the jumping sprite of your protagonist, copy it, rename the copy Alex Jump, and paste it, replacing the old Alex Jump with the one of your new protagonist. This allows you to replace the sprite without having to go through every single jump event. It's a really, really good time saver. After choosing your protagonist and inserting all the sprites, you're also going to want to transfer the class, skills, some weapons, create new weapons if you wish. Icons can be transferred by using paint.net to edit them onto the sprite sheet, but this tends to be finicky, so you might have to fidget with it. It's not uncommon for icons to clip into each other. Once you get it working, you should be good to go. After doing so, you're going to want to rebalance the character you have chosen for whatever game you have chosen to put them into. The reason for this is that it is not uncommon for the character, even if you're doing games of similar power scale, to be slightly over or under 2. You will, during playtesting, it is not uncommon for you to have to make various micro adjustments as you go along. Like, for this game here, I had to constantly micro adjust Swen, and even then he didn't turn out great. I received criticism that his playstyle of regenerative blood mage, almost with his electric skills doing damage to him, was somewhat underpowered. This is something I will be keeping in mind for the future. After you have chosen your characters and rebalanced them, your next step is, of course, the story. The most easy way to go about this is to select any central theme you should desire. Ask yourself how the characters would react to where they are. Give yourself a sort of butterfly effect rule. You have placed X and Y. Now think of how that would cause the chain reaction in the story, how they would, as people, react to the situation, what changes that would cause, how they would react if like certain NPCs. It's a little thing that can add a lot, such as Ryder here during this game insults the guy with the big hat by asking if he's compensating by having a big hat. It's one of my favorite gags from this game. After you have chosen your central theme of your story, you should go about working it into as many scenes as it can actually fit. It is not wise to put it into every single scene, as it can feel incredibly ham-fisted. This is something I often struggle with. Once you've got a basic foundation with sort of that, for lack of a better term, set up, you're going to want to consider making the party dynamics. For example, say your protagonist, say you've put let's say we put Alex and Joel into wishlist. Why did they join the Randall army? How does this reflect, say the theme is the horrors of war? How can we work in their bond to the theme of the horrors of war? How do we show the horrors of war affecting them to demonstrate the theme that war is hell? Maybe Alex starts getting snippy, maybe starts lashing out at Joel, which you can exploit because people already care about Alex and Joel, so you can skip right to the good stuff of having them have arguing and tension. You can apply Alex join the random army on garbage iron, and that this is an alternate timeline. By exploring the past dynamics, you can skip a lot of the setup and get right to your theme, and that's a very strong benefit. I'm sorry, this is rambling. I should have scripted this. Oh, wait, he's still geared up. Shit. I didn't think that one through. I think Swan's dead here. Dead. Nope. Nope, he's alive. Okay, let's heal him up. Now, with all this in mind, you may be wondering, well, that's all well and good, but coding-wise, how do you do it? Well, first of all, when transference goes, you're going, which is the main coding thing aside from the sprite thing I mentioned earlier, you're going to run into a certain set of key issues. That being that in game X, weird might be status number 14. In game Y, weird might be status number 19. And in game Y, status number 14 might be poison. So a skill that is supposed to apply weird may now be applying poison. Make sure to check the active effects for common events and transfer any necessary common events. Or the status effects it applies to make sure the status effects are in the right slots. You may have to transfer status effects entirely. In particular, this can be an issue with skills such as Mine or Iris, which have a recoil. You will have to transfer the recoil, the common event that causes it, and the skill that the common event causes deal the recoil to Alex. Another example is the dazed mechanic, which I'm pretty sure works by common event, but I haven't really looked deeply as I have not yet attempted to transfer any unbreakable characters in other games, due to not really understanding how the dazed mechanics work all that well. So this is kind of a wishy-washy example, but from my bare bones understanding of how all that works, it's basically just another common event thing, and you will have to transfer the necessary code and status effects. Again, if you were to transfer a skill that applied dazed and unbreakable to, say, wishless, for example, you will run into problems. Wait, shit, I don't have items ready. You run into problems in the sense that the skill that now apply days will now apply something just completely random. As I've stated before, you're going to want to check your status effects. Then your next, once you've got your story laid out in themes, you have two options. One, search the maps event by event and just change it. This is more a winged option. If you care a lot more about gameplay and story, you can get away with a lot less changes. And you can kind of just focus on changing just the bare minimum events and just going through like change that, and then not really worrying about much else. I never liked this mechanic Frank has. Like, why am I being punished for using blind? Why am I being, like, I get, like, no. How do I articulate this? Frank is a really good, well-coded boss, but I don't like two things. One, it destroys your chairs. I mean, what the fuck else am I gonna use my chairs on? I'm sorry, this tangent just bothers me. Two, being blind in the original Wishless game happens randomly, so I'm basically being punished for what it's now good luck being functionally reversed into bad luck. He's otherwise a fantastic boss, I just never liked those two particular aspects. Maybe like have some dialogue where like if you captoss and blind him, he puts on like I don't know, some eye guards, and then he's immune to blind. Or just make him immune to blind outright, which I honestly wish I had done here, but, you know, I am not a clever man. Now, with all these factors taken into account, you may now be wondering, okay, well, what's the alternative writing tactic for creating a fan game? I'm glad you asked. Because the alternative, and the preferred method if you really care about your themes, is to functionally replay the game. First we played the X game with need to refresh on the characters, right? Then we played a Y game, the one you're putting them into. As you go, have the game open in one tab, and this is what I did for most of my models. Point bash, I went with the more winged style, as the feats in that game weren't that important. Oh, ending spoilers for Wishless and Tons, by the way. Also, I want to remind everyone this mod is co-authored by Funtamore, who did a fantastic job improving this scene and many other scenes. I'm noticing a couple of typos. I may have to release a patch later. That aside, another day. Lots of things for a day. Fun fact, don't use Zeus's grasp here, you will be mobile. But all that aside, you basically open the game, and every time you find an event that needs to be changed, you will write the changed version in Google Doc. You'll write either name of the event, name of the NPC. You can organize it by area or by map, whichever you prefer. I prefer to do areas and go in roughly the order the player will walk through the area and the order in which they will encounter the NPCs and enemies, and then I will write the change versions in the script. So when I go back, I know what to change and how to change it, and I can just ignore everything else. There is one potential flaw in this system, and that it is not uncommon for you to miss a couple events and then have to go back to them. Whilst this is not uncommon, you can usually just get away with bullshitting it. And because if you missed it, then others will probably miss it. And even if they don't, and they notice it, it's pretty easy to patch. But that's assuming you miss anything at all. So make sure you're playing it incredibly thoroughly if you go with this method. So basically, 1. Replace sprites by renaming sprite sheets. It's a major shortcut. It's incredibly helpful to use. After that, you want to transfer the skills, make sure your common events are in order, make sure your status effects are in the right slots, transfer status effects that are not in the game you're transferring into. Then you want to sorry, I'm brain farting a little bit. Then you want to can't talk today. Then you want to either kind of window with your story for just doing this more for gameplay, or you want to transfer your or you want to write out your story in advance, section by replaying the original game before continuing with your project. Afterwards, you will be pretty much good to go. Just go through, change the story events, rebalance combat, making tweaks, trust your gut ultimately, and listen to feedback. This non-investment here was an addition by Funtamore. Outstanding guy, outstanding writer, outstanding friend, outstanding game designer. One of the best in this fandom. I'm not going to show the whole ending here because this video is as long as it is, but once you have that script, write it, implement the changes. A secret boss is always a good idea if you can fit it in. Basically just put it somewhere inconspicuous. Hopeful and joyful is a very good example of this, putting it where easy mode was. Do something like that. Basically take one iconic enemy from the game you're playing from and put it in the game you're doing. It always works. Hopeful and joyful is a far better blueprint than any of my mods. It's a cut above. I'm just gonna own up to that I am thoroughly outclassed by that mod. So use it as a blueprint. That should be all the basics, as rambly and poorly spoken as all this is. I do hope it helps all the same, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I look forward to playing X and Y mods. They're some of my favorites. I eat them up. So if y'all make any, let me know.